Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into a complex and often misunderstood chapter of modern history. The relationship between Mao Zedong's rule and religion in China. How did a nation with thousands of years of rich spiritual traditions, from Buddhism and Taoism to folk beliefs, undergo such a dramatic transformation? Let's explore the policies and events, particularly during the Cultural Revolution, that reshaped China's religious landscape. Before the mid-20th century, religion was deeply woven into the fabric of Chinese society. Temples, monasteries, and churches were not just places of worship, but also community centers, cultural hubs, and sources of social welfare. Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism, often referred to as the three teachings, coexisted and blended, influencing everything from art and philosophy to daily ethics and family life. Alongside these, various folk religions thrived, and Christianity and Islam also had established communities. This intricate spiritual tapestry was an essential part of China's identity. However, when the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949 under Mao Zedong, this relationship began to change fundamentally. The party's ideology was rooted in Marxism-Leninism, which views religion as a tool of social control used by ruling classes to pacify the masses, the opiate of the people. As Karl Marx famously put it, from this perspective, traditional beliefs were seen as obstacles to progress, superstition that held back the development of a modern socialist state. In the early years of the People's Republic, the government's approach was one of control and containment, rather than outright eradication. They established state-supervised religious organizations, like the Buddhist Association of China and the Three Self-Patriotic Movement for Protestant Christians. The idea was to bring religious activities under the firm control of the party, ensuring they aligned with state goals and severing ties with foreign entities. While this allowed some forms of worship to continue, it placed significant restrictions on religious freedom and autonomy. Religious leaders who resisted state control often faced persecution. The real turning point, however, came with the launch of the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution in 1966. This wasn't just a political purge. It was a radical movement aimed at destroying what Mao termed the Four Olds: old customs, old culture, old habits, and old ideas. Religion, with its ancient rituals, texts, and philosophies, was a prime target. It was branded as feudalistic superstition, a remnant of a past that had to be completely obliterated to make way for a new, revolutionary China. What followed was a decade of intense and systematic suppression. The Red Guards, fervent young revolutionaries empowered by Mao, were at the forefront of this campaign. They stormed temples, churches, and mosques across the country. Priceless religious statues were smashed, ancient scriptures were burned, and sacred sites were desecrated or repurposed into factories, warehouses, or barracks. The goal was not just to close these places down, but to erase their spiritual significance from public memory. The human cost was immense. Monks, nuns, imams, and priests were subjected to public humiliation. They were forced to renounce their faith, made to marry in violation of their vows, or sent to labor camps for re-education. Many were beaten, tortured, or worse. Ordinary believers were also targeted. Owning religious texts or artifacts could lead to severe punishment. Practicing faith, even in the privacy of one's home, became a dangerous act of defiance. The social fabric that had been held together by shared rituals and beliefs for centuries was torn apart. This campaign was incredibly thorough. For example, in Tibet, a region where Buddhism was central to every aspect of life, the vast majority of its thousands of monasteries were destroyed. The assault wasn't just physical, it was deeply psychological. The state promoted a cult of personality around Mao Zedong, elevating him to a near-divine status. His Little Red Book became the ultimate source of wisdom, and loyalty to him and the party was demanded above all else, replacing traditional spiritual devotion. By the time the Cultural Revolution officially ended in 1976 with Mao's death, open religious life in China had been virtually extinguished. The institutional structures were dismantled, a generation had been raised on atheist ideology, and the public expression of faith had been driven deep underground. It was a period of profound cultural and spiritual trauma, the effects of which are still felt today. After Mao's passing, China entered a period of reform and opening up under Deng Xiaoping. The government's stance on religion softened considerably. The extreme policies of the Cultural Revolution were repudiated, and the constitution was revised to once again grant, at least on paper, freedom of religious belief. Some temples, mosques, and churches were allowed to reopen, and state-controlled religious organizations were revived. However, the landscape had been permanently altered. The state continues to maintain tight control over all recognized religious activities, and groups that operate outside of official channels often face pressure. While there has been a significant revival of religious belief and practice in recent decades, with many people seeking spiritual meaning after years of political turmoil, the relationship between religion and the state in China remains complex and highly regulated. The legacy of the Cultural Revolution created a deep-seated suspicion of organized religion within the party, a sentiment that continues to shape policy to this day. In conclusion, the story of religion under Mao is one of suppression driven by ideology. The Cultural Revolution represents the most intense phase of this process, an attempt to forcibly erase thousands of years of spiritual heritage in favor of a purely materialistic, revolutionary worldview. While faith has proven to be resilient and has seen a resurgence, the events of that era left an indelible mark on China's spiritual and cultural identity. Thanks so much for watching. This is a vast and sensitive topic, and we've only scratched the surface. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.